Good evening, and thank you for joining us for News from a Catholic Perspective. I'm Wyatt Coolsby, in for Lauren Ashburn. As leaders from across the globe discuss the challenges their nations face at the United Nations General Assembly, the Holy See is adding its unique voice. It's helping member countries navigate one of the greatest challenges of our time, how to deal with millions of migrants pouring out of regions racked by war and violence. Tonight we bring you more of Lauren Ashburn's exclusive interview with the Vatican's Secretary for Relations with States, Archbishop Paul Gallagher. He's urging nations to carefully consider their stance on the issue.
I asked the question many times about Catholic teaching on immigration and balancing the right of sovereign nations to defend their borders and the protection and support of the poor. How do you balance that?
You try to balance it. One of the things that the Holy Father is saying is that governments also have a responsibility to estimate or judge their capacity to integrate migrants in particular into their society. At the same time, we recognize that this, we've got, 40 million refugees on any one day, and this is without precedent. There's no way you can just say to Greece and to Spain and to Italy, sort it out, because it's beyond their capacity. They need the solidarity. At the same time, and overcoming that fear that we all have of the unknown, of the different person, the different colour, the different culture, the different religion. And this has gone on for centuries and centuries. I'm originally from Irish stock, like millions and millions of Americans. We left because there was a famine in Ireland and came to Liverpool in the north of England and have never had the good sense to move on. Just like, as the Pope will always say, well, the Bergoglios left Piedmont and went to Buenos Aires. In fact, there are lots of examples in Europe and places where people with goodwill are welcoming people, are integrating them into the society, and it's working well. There are other places where there is rejection, where there's hostility. And then, of course, on top of all of that, in a large part of the world, we do have to face the reality of terrorism, which is a big worry to governments and to peoples, and which we mustn't be overly naive about. We have to understand that that is a concern, and we have to be part of seeking a solution also to that.
The Christian population in Iraq is now about 200,000, according to Archbishop Warda. Was 1.5 million Christians in 2003. The Pope, the US, the UK, all called it genocide. The UN has not. Are you trying to convince the UN to call it a genocide?
No, I don't think we are making that one of our objectives. It's true that many Iraqi Christians have left. Some of them have come to the West, some of them have come to the United States. It's highly unlikely those people will ever want to go home. But there are a lot of Christian refugees in Lebanon and in Jordan. And with the right incentives, these people could, I think, return home. In the play of Nineveh, there's a whole plan now to try and restore Christian villages. At the same time, the Christians do not wish to be put in a museum. They wish to be full members of the societies in which their parents and grandparents have lived for generation upon generation. So we, from the Holy See point of view, we insist very much on citizenship. They have to have citizenship like everybody else and not be just a tolerated minority. Without a Christian presence, which has always been characteristic of the Middle East, particularly of the Holy Land and Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and places like that, then these societies will be probably much more conflictual than without the Christians.
I was in Iraq, I was in Erbil, and many Christians there told me that there isn't enough help, that the UN funding is not going to the Christians, and that is one of the reasons why they're going to places like Australia or to the United States. Is it the Holy See's place to correct that situation?
Well, we can encourage greater generosity from international agencies. It's not that we have the resources to be able to substitute for the sort of funding. But in Iraq, for example, we know that Aid to the Church in Need has this very big project to rebuild Christian villages. and obviously we're encouraging that. So we do what we can.
We've interviewed several people who work very closely with
Yes.
Pope Francis, Cardinal Koch, Cardinal Turkson, and we've asked them what it's like working with the Holy Father. What do you like best about it?
The thing I would say that I've always been struck by the Holy Father is his courtesy. He is the most courteous man you could ever meet. If he keeps you waiting for 5 minutes, he will apologize 10 times, despite the fact he's the Pope. At the same time, when you leave, he takes you from the door of his little apartment, and he takes you to the lift, and he presses the button for the lift, and he waits till you disappear in the lift. I've never met anybody quite as courteous as that in my life, and I'm British.
And on that, Archbishop, I think we will end our interview.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. God bless.
Thank you, sir.